Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are day two? Deadline film, The Big Sick. So please, now Judd Apatow is en route and will be joining us, so we're going to have live, so why not go live? But please, allow me to introduce Ms. Holly Hunter, Ms. Emily Gordon, Mr. Kamal Nanjiani, Director Michael Showalter, Zoe Kazan, Producer Mr. Barry Mando, and Mr. Ray Romano. Now, before we start, the film debuts tonight at the Eccles.
Correct.
So.
Whoa, so loud.
This is very loud.
So
Check,
I have
check.
to ask you.
Whoa.
Are you guys
Testing.
nervous beyond the feedback?
The feedback of this
Of the
mic?
microphones?
Yeah, these mics.
Yeah. No, I think we're
This is
adjusting.
not the feedback I'm most worried about for today. Great pun.
You could have done better.
So that is
Is
loud.
there like a fucking army marching here?
This is not a panel, it's a prop
Can I
rock
say?
show.
Can I?
Yeah.
Can I
Did the women
swear?
start marching already?
Wait, what do we do about that?
I think
Just
we're
hold
good.
the
We
mics a
ignore
little
it.
bit further away. So
Hold the
how do,
mic.
how do you guys feel about your Sundance debut?
Wow. I mean, I won't speak for everybody, but we've all been together and we're excited. We're proud of the work that we did on this movie. And we many years process that started with Kumail and Emily, and then Judd and Barry got involved, and then we got involved, and the actors, and this is sort of like the big unveiling, and so there's incredible excitement and pride. I'm just happy to be here.
Now, Kamal, this is your story. I mean, literally, as well as writing it, and of course, you're in it. Can you give people a sense of what The Big Sick is about and where it came from in your real lives?
Growing up as a young Pakistani man.
Yeah, we swapped lives. It's sort of the first year. It's the story of the first year of us meeting.
Meeting and dating, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how much I'm supposed to say, but it's.
It was a chaotic year for a couple of different reasons on both our ends. Both of us were dealing with issues in our own lives that ended up kind of making...
Each other's issues.
Yeah, that ended up making each other's issues, and ended up being so dramatic that we were like, we should probably do something with this.
Well, I mean, I think we can talk a little bit about it because obviously there's a synopsis out there, and I think the title kind of gives away a little bit of
It's
what's going on.
basically what it is when Emily and I, in real life, when we first started dating, we were a few months in and we were in that zone where we're like, where are we? I think we were at different points of the relationship based on who you talk to.
Oh, that is not true. But okay.
But Emily got very, very ill and was in a coma for 8 days.
Funny stuff.
They
folks.
didn't know.
Funny
Hilarious.
stuff.
They didn't know. Now I've spoiled it. Good thing Judd isn't here.
It's not only, it was that now suddenly this guy that I was dating that was kind of casually committed to me for many reasons. One, because he's a young man, and also because he was dealing with his own upbringing where he was kind of supposed to be arranged married. He was supposed to go through this whole process that his parents were working out for him. So while he was dealing with that and not wanting to get too serious in a relationship, I kind of threw a wrench into that by getting very,
She
very
went
sick.
and got in a coma, which was inconvenient for so many people.
So manipulative.
It
My
really
parents-
put out, like, the nurses weren't excited about it.
No, they were.
Her parents were beside
They
themselves.
were not excited. And so he had to then hang out with my parents, this was a guy who kind of commitment phobic, who then suddenly was hanging out with my parents, who are played in the movie very ably by all of these human beings.
Not all of them are not playing your parents.
That's true.
So Holly and Ray are playing your parents.
Yeah.
Yes. And Zoe is playing me in the movie.
Which, is that a little weird?
Not until you just said it.
Now you've made
That's
it
the way
weird.
rolls at Sundance. Now, to get a sense of that, though, I mean, there are obviously part of what the film talks about, and I don't think this gives away too much, is there's some cross-cultural issues, and very serious ones. And I think, obviously, in the era which we just entered into about 2 hours ago, those issues become even more poignant. Do you guys feel that the film, in that sense, offers a perspective maybe even different than the one you intended when you were working on it because of that?
I think people will see, it's a story, it's sort of a love story is what it is, and we didn't really intend it
To be political.
to be anything beyond that, so the movie is what it is, and it'll probably be viewed in a different context now than the one that we had assumed it would be viewed in.
But Kumail's story is a story of an immigrant and someone who moved to America when he was a teenager. And I think the movie pre-existed the current situation. The story pre-existed the current situation. The script pre-existed the current situation. However, it's always been a movie that in many ways is very much talking about what does it mean to be American, and what are the what that just basically that. What does it mean to be American? What does it mean to be a citizen of a country? What are the responsibilities of that?
And to be an adult.
And to be an adult.
Yeah.
And so, but these are all things that were there already. These are not. This isn't a sort of like, oh, and by the way. I mean, this is what makes the movie an interesting story, is because of that.
But I would say if you saw the movie, you would say it's not as political as that. It's very much of just like, it's a personal story of two people in the first year they fell in love and the issues that they had, and one of them is an immigrant and they come from different cultures, so the movie is really a family story and a personal story. More
And a
than
love
it
story.
is- Yeah, and I think people will maybe place context on it, but I think if you just saw them, when you see the movie, you can see that it's not pitched that way at all.
No, because everybody goes through that in their own relationships. Your parents didn't want you to marry her because she wasn't Pakistani, but it's the same as, my wife's parents didn't want her to marry me because I had no job and I wanted to be a stand-up.
Wow, that worked out.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just, there's always conflicts, and that's why it's.
I think the idea of being the person that your parents want you to be versus being the person that you want to be is something that all of us go through. And I was a very rebellious teenager, so I very instantly was like, I won't do anything you want me to do. And I just think it's a very relatable, resonant story. I think you're exactly right. And look, it's Judd Apatow,
God.
everybody!
Judd
Woohoo!
Well, you can share back over there. Were you caught in the snow?
I wasn't caught in the snow. Somebody thought that I was afraid to walk 40 yards here. And they put a car, and they said, let's drive there. And they drove for 35 minutes around. I guess they think I'm a Hollywood elite or something. But I wouldn't walk.
That's literally the way the Hollywood liberal elite roll.
I know. I thought I feared the snow.
So, Judd, now that you're here, we talked a little bit about the film and about its story, but how did you get involved?
I did Pete Holmes' podcast with Kumail 5 years ago, and it was really funny, and he was very funny. I was somewhat oblivious to what was happening in stand-up in those days, and now I have a TV show with Pete, Crashing, and this movie with Kumail, so I don't know, I guess it's all about podcasts.
You should have been on that show.
Yeah. And so then I said, do you have any ideas? And he brought a bunch, and then this one just seemed like a great original idea. And I like it when things are true and personal like that.
Now, you guys, is this the first time you'd written together?
Yeah.
What
I
was
would
that
say so.
process like as a couple and as creative people?
Well, we'd worked together before. We had we'd done a couple of things together. We had a Comedy Central show together, so we learned how to kind of work together, but writing together was a completely unique thing. But it really helped. We would trade scenes back and forth and often intentionally write scenes that were intended for the other person, their main scene, just to kind of get a perspective and then go back and forth. So it was a bit of couples therapy on top of being a writing process.
And it was interesting because there were certain things I remember that I was like, oh, this was a very happy memory. And she was like, I was miserable during that. So it was cool to be able to put that in for our relationship, it was good to finally understand that we'll never really be able to understand each other's perspective on this.
But those were also that was really good tension in the movie.
Right.
That those two diametrically opposed experiences.
Yeah, it's exactly right, because when Emily was out of the coma, her parents are thrilled. I'm thrilled. Everybody's so excited. But Emily, yeah, she's like, this is the worst pain I've ever been in. What's everyone so happy about? I'm in a fucking hospital.
Hey, we're telling a lot about this movie.
Yeah.
Too much.
Internet, it's all out there. But Michael, how did you get initially involved in being the director of this project?
I've known Kumail for a good long time, and Emily as well. I read the script and was like, begged Kumail and Judd and all these guys to let me direct it.
Now, how much work from that script, that draft, went to what became the film that is going to debut
We
tonight.
worked on it a lot. We worked on it a lot.
And what was that? Was it just a process of honing or just refining, or how did you get it to where it is?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like trying to get at what we felt was really important and what exactly we wanted to say, and to try to be as there's so much going on in this movie. There's so many characters, so many storylines, so many threads that we're trying to do right by, kind of. And so we really wanted to figure out exactly how to do this and make it keep it moving, keep it entertaining. And there's some big challenges in this movie in terms of the way to tell the story that I kind of won't get into, but when you see the movie, you'll
Oh, come
maybe
on, we're
have
telling
a guess.
everything
But
now.
in terms of-
Let's talk about the fonts and the end credits and everything.
No, in the end of the process, we also brought the actors in a way that was more than is normally done. And Zoe came in for a couple of weeks, and we would just argue about where the character's coming from, or come up with ideas, or do improvisations. And we worked with Holly, we worked with Ray, and all the actors got a tremendous amount of input on the script, and it made a very, very big difference. And I think, the characters feel lived in as a result, and they're much more, they're constructed in a much more detailed way than I think could happen without them.
Yeah, and it was almost like a rehearsal process in some way because we had discussed every element of every scene beforehand. There didn't need to be a lot of conversation on set about what a line meant or what the intention of a scene was. It's sort of, as you said, it's more than actors are usually included in the writing process, but it was in some ways also part of the acting process.
For you as an actor, Zoe, is that something that you want to do on more projects, or do you think it was specific to this one?
I think that these guys have a very specific way of conducting collaboration, which is unique to them and is, I think, probably one of the reasons that all of their films are so strong and feel so real and grounded, and the humor feels so specific. I don't think that just like any person applying this kind of way of working would come up with the same result. I think it's something that they've worked out over years. But also like it was, I think, a special thing because on this project we were trying to do homage to this true story. And so I think some things were delicate and needed to be worked out ahead of time. If you had to work them out on set, it would have been a fight.
Or a little awkward, at least.
Yeah.
Emily and Zoe, it is a unique position where you're playing a person who, I gather you were on set quite a bit,
Yeah,
if not
yeah,
always.
yeah.
What was that like between the two of you, and how did you work in honing the Emily character for The Big Sick?
We met up ahead of time. I think right after your audition, but we just met up and hung out, and I was like, oh, this girl's great. Like this is someone I would want to be friends with. And I think I didn't want anyone to do like an imitation of me. That would have been weird. But I wanted someone who I kind of vibed with and that understood what we were trying to do. And then she's a really talented actress, so I was like, do what you do, create this character. Because at a certain point, it's not me. It is a character named Emily that everybody kind of weighed in on. She did such a fantastic job with it.
Thanks, Emily.
And every day she would come in on set and we would like just hug, and it was oddly.
She was stealing her essence.
It might be true. Were you doing that? I've been wanting to ask you actually.
Honestly, before I met Emily, I was like, after I'd been cast, but before I met Emily, I was like, oh, maybe I'll like take things, I'll like watch her, I'll like take things from her, like, do some sort of, stealing. And then I met her and I was like, there's no point. Like, because she seemed so much like me already, and also like someone that I would already be friends with, that I was like, any little thing I try to take is just gonna look stupid. So instead I tried to spend time with Emily and figure out where she was coming from, like more of her internal life.
Yeah.
Holly, how did you get involved with the film?
Well, these guys came to me, and it was just a really delectable ask, an invitation. But I think that the thing that was the most revelatory for me was how truly open the production was, because of you guys, and that the comfort level that's they're the origin of that. And Zoe's right. Nobody else could like imitate this or take this on because it's coming organically from you guys. And then Showalter is so confident as a director that the pliant, you can't be pliant like this and be that deeply collaborative without a tremendous amount of confidence. And oddly enough, an ego, a really healthy ego, like that comes from, the fish stinks from the head down. And so that
can be taken on so many levels today.
We should have put that in the movie.
But that was
You could always do a sequel like This Is 40. You could
I'm
do This
pretty
Is a
sure
really
that's
good thing.
Trump's whole inauguration speech.
But yeah, so that just like filtered down through every single aspect of the set, and it was really fun every day to come work because we were all telling the same story because of the pre-production, because of the rehearsal period that we'd been to, where everybody really and truly weighed in like big time. Everybody had big ideas and
Have you
big
had an experience
opinions.
like that before in films?
Well, no, not like this. This was original.
In the
This was
theater.
truly the least brittle experience that I've ever had, and that makes other experiences, I don't mean to demean them, but this truly is like collaborative, from the word go.
Now, let's get it. The film was shot in New York. It was shot when?
May and June. Yeah.
Of last year. So it was hot and sticky. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit, Michael, if you can too. I mean, I'm sorry if it's boring to you guys, but I always am really interested in the mechanics of filmmaking and how people do this. So give us a little sense of how the whole production got up and running and how you guys did it. How long did you shoot for?
24 days.
Wow, that's fast. Wow.
Didn't have a lot of money.
Sundance, man. Michael, can you give us a
To
sense
me, it was a
of,
lot of
like,
money.
Give us a sense of what it was like putting the film together.
Well, Barry, we can all chime in on this. As he said, it's not a lot of money. To me, it was a lot of money. And 24 days is like a lifetime to me. We shot Doris in, I think, 19 days, and so I'm like, that's a whole new week, we could do, but we had a ton of footage to shoot. We had a lot of pages to shoot. We had a lot of locations. We had a lot of characters. We had a lot of. We knew we were going to be doing improv. We knew we were going to be breaking scenes apart on the day, and so, I don't want to get too philosophical about it, but like everybody just
Get
needs
philosophical,
to. Well,
Mike.
everybody needs to show up and do their job, and so, like, my job is I'm very myopically focused on just like getting what we need, and I'm not thinking about it. Everyone's just doing what they need to do as best as they can possibly do it, and so that was kind of the attitude. It was like every single person is there doing 100%. Otherwise, we're not going to get the movie shot, and it's not going to be good. And that's what I kind of love about a film set. Is like there's this weird checks and balances going on where like you're sort of in a chess match against yourselves, but you're all in it together, and it was a really, and I say this in the best way, it was a really difficult shoot.
The good thing,
It was long hours. It was really long hours, and it was hot, and
it
we were
felt like
cramped.
sprinting the entire time. But the good thing is, there wasn't much downtime. A lot of times you work on something, and like when they move camera, you have like an hour, and you have to get warmed up again. This, we were moving so fast that once we started shooting a scene, we were shooting it continuously until it was done.
And a feeling of like you're going fast, but you were so confident and calm that I never felt like we weren't going to get it, or yes, difficult, but with a very firm hand, and also from these guys, from the producers, it felt I never felt that we weren't going to make our day.
Judd, you've become, you have this, let's call it a second career now as a producer, as much as you are a director, obviously with Girls and other things. What was this experience with The Big Sick like for you as a producer, say, compared to other shows or films that you produced?
It feels like a project that magically came together. There's just so many wonderful connections. As I look back, I was on the 1992 HBO Young Comedians special with Ray Romano. I went on a college tour with my daughter to Carnegie Mellon, and Holly was there, and the kids were doing scenes for Holly, and then she was giving them notes after their scenes, and my daughter and I watched that for 3 hours, just amazed at how brilliant she was. And Zoe was working with Lena before this, with Lena Dunham, and Mike did an episode of Love, which is an
And
amazing
we sat
one.
next to each other on that airplane. Remember, we sat next to each other on the plane.
Yeah.
Always got to know about the flights.
Exactly.
And that airline was?
I don't remember.
Yeah. So and then how I met Kumail seems like a weird way to begin it all. Barry and I have worked together forever, and Emily is the greatest and just a wonderful person who was very nice to me. They have that show Meltdown. They would let me go on stage even when I wasn't that funny. And so for me, it's been like a magical thing because I knew how much this meant to them, but we also had to fictionalize parts of it to make it even more dramatic than what happened, and just the fact that they all did such great work.
Guys, was that
Fleshing out was
difficult
amazing.
for you? Taking your life and hyper-dramatizing it or having to change parts of it to fit the form of the film?
I think it actually helped us because then we could distance ourselves from it, and we were like, all right, this is something that happened to us, but we're making a story, we're telling a story, we're creating these characters, and Judd and Barry were really good at sort of guiding us through that whole process of fictionalizing. Gave us more perspective on it. It was
Because Emily's parents were too nice
That's
in reality.
That was true. Yeah, they're just lovely people. It's not interesting.
So he's the mean version of your dad?
No, it's not exactly that, but they weren't, and I hate to say they're not interesting, but they weren't, it just wasn't interesting to have
You
them
guys
kind
are
of
going to
portray.
have such an uncomfortable Thanksgiving at this point.
Love you
Yeah.
guys. You guys are great. But as I told them, I was like, if you shot what actually happened, it would be a lovely story only for us. It would be a movie we would watch every Christmas, but it wouldn't be an interesting story to the rest of the world. So what we have to do, and Judd was so great about that, is like take a guy who's got the problems that the character Kumail has. Who's the weirdest? Like who would be the most uncomfortable for him to have to be with during that period of time? And it's going to be these two characters who are more direct and more more interactive than he is comfortable with. That's part of the journey that Kumail's character had to go on. And Judd and Barry were both so great about like, just take that and keep turning it up a notch. Keep turning it up a notch. Okay, take it down one notch because that's crazy. Like, it was a great process of like figuring out.
You literally like.
Well, we did say like it'd be interesting if the couple was in conflict before this happened.
Yeah.
So when they show up at the hospital, they're already not getting along about something else.
Which my parents get along perfectly all the time.
Yes, and that I thought was a good way to make it harder on
Have
Kumail.
your parents seen the?
They have seen it 4 times. In one day. In one day.
And what do they think?
They absolutely loved it. And I think that was when they finally got, like, you guys are actors who brought your own, like, you brought your own
Right.
stuff to it. That's when they finally got that it was a
'Cause I had
story.
to tell my family that every day for 9 years with my show.
Yeah, but you're a dramatic secret weapon, my friend. I mean, people know you from the show, but then when you're on Men of a Certain Age and on vinyl, you showed whole new muscles.
Well, thank you. But
No,
Very
come
true.
on. Give it up for Ray Romano. Come on. You all
Emily's
know.
mom. When Emily's
thank you,
mom.
but just to keep in
sorry.
character, both those shows were canceled. So thank you. But I appreciate it. I
But
appreciate
remember
it.
this, seriously, The Honeymooners only ran for 1 season.
Yes.
Right?
36, 39 episodes? Yeah.
So give me a sense of how did you get involved with the project, and did you meet Emily's parents?
No, I never met Emily's parents. I got a
will.
call saying.
Maybe you should be a fifth watching of the film with these two.
No, but you told me early on that your parents were really not like you wrote them.
And that we were amping up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I just got a call from my agent saying, I guess Judd or somebody wants me to read this. And listen, I'm not very hip, so I knew Kumail, but didn't know much about him. So I just went home and I told my kids who were over there, I got this script from, and as soon as I heard Kumail, they go, you got to do it, Dad. You got to do it. So that's when I know when something.
Thank you.
Yes. But I still read the
Family
script.
matters.
I still read the script anyway, and I
Not
love-
Family Matters. Everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah.
Different show.
But I read the script, and then I met the guys. I met you too, right? But I met these guys.
You
first.
met them first.
Yeah. And we talked about it, and I knew there was going to be. The script was great. If the script was just the way it would be fine. But I knew with the people involved, it was going to be improv, and that was attractive to me. Scary, but attractive. And and then I wrote a little backstory for my guy, gave it to you, and you loved the idea, and you put a little couple of that in there. And I said, yeah, let's do it.
So
Yeah.
you like that process of the actors really being involved in the writing and really being involved in the development?
It depends, you know. Some things are, you do word for word and they're great, and sometimes doing this is, like I say, the writing was there anyway. But it was fun to do take after take after take and come up with new things and then never see it in the final product.
Now,
But the extras, the DVD extras
Oh,
are
so
going
gonna
to
be
real fun.
great.
Yeah.
Now tonight's going to be the first time you guys are seeing this with a full-on audience, right?
In its completed form.
What?
Yeah, I saw it. We saw it. I saw it at a screening with. It's really good, guys. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Maybe you should become the Deadline.
Yeah.
It's really good. I saw it.
Yeah.
But to get a sense for that, I mean, what are the anticipations about tonight? Because the Sundance debut is a pretty big deal.
I'm trying not to think about it. I'm just gonna go
I'm looking
and
forward to
experience it. It's gonna be great.
I've only been here twice before, and I was in that Eccles Theater, and the energy is great, and it's a great place to see it. Yeah.
Well, we'd love to take some questions from you guys. So, do we have any questions from anyone? Put your hand up. There's somebody at the back there, but I can't see them. Yes. Just let me repeat that if people couldn't hear online. The question was, what was the most challenging, would it be fair to say the most challenging aspect of making the film? And who is that directed to? All right. 8 people are going to talk simultaneously. It's going to be great. I'm going to pick someone. You.
Me. I think initially the most challenging thing was when Emily and I were writing the script, working with Jed and Barry, was, they're very, very hard on scripts. So when you go into a notes meeting with Jed and Barry, it's going to be a longer meeting than you think it's going to be. So for us, we would write the script, and we'd be like, this is great, this is done. We did it, high five. We come out of the meeting 5 hours later, our eyes are swirling. So for us, that was tough to it was a great process though, to have them tear it apart each time, and we would rebuild it, and they would tear it apart, and we would rebuild it, and realizing how much rewriting is, how important, how essential it is to writing, and also to distance ourselves from the actual events was a challenge at first.
And you never seemed like you hated us. And some people give up.
You
They
should
just
have heard
stop.
the conversations in the car on the way home.
In the car on the way to Stress Eat after a meeting, maybe some bad mouthing, but it was a very intense process. But also never did we think. I think we always were we'll keep doing it until you guys give up or we make the movie.
The good thing was, each time that they gave us those notes, the script got better. Each draft of the script was better than the last, and we would realize that. So we knew that it was a difficult process, but we knew that we were heading somewhere that we wanted to
Did you ever
get to.
disagree? Did you ever get notes and say that's a horrible idea?
We would always give everything a try and see how it'd
Yeah.
shake down, and then it would be very clear to everyone if something didn't work.
Right.
Usually, yeah.
But don't you think it was also easier that you were both in the car together driving away? I mean,
That's like the sub-meeting, isn't it?
Having to go through this alone would have been a very interesting experience, I think. It was helpful. In some ways, we had to institute a no talking work in bed rule. I highly recommend that if you
Again,
work with
for
your
the
spouse.
sequel.
Yeah.
Totally for the sequel.
And we had a set of rules because it got to the point where it's
Wait,
all
what
we're
was-
doing.
No talking.
Work in bed. No talking work in bed.
Do you do that
Sex
at home?
talk that was your first draft was so good, honey.
Yeah, there was. Don't lie, there
Yes,
was.
right.
Your
Pillow
punch-up
talk.
was so hot.
What about for you, Michael? What was the most challenging aspect of making the film?
Definitely there's that perfectionist thing of are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? From these guys. There's a lot of scenes in the movie where the movie takes place where it's cold and it's Chicago, and it was literally boiling hot. I actually was there's some scenes in the movie, and I want to say what they are, where and you can't tell at all, it's cold. It looks like it's cold. It's boiling hot.
So if the camera
And-
spun around, you were in shorts and a tank.
Sweating.
But that's not, that's a sort of a superficial thing. But when I see the movie, a lot of times I'm just remembering how
Yeah, there was
it
one
was
room.
so
there was one room
hot.
one room in that apartment
Yes,
building.
yes, and there was no venom.
You all know that, go, yeah.
We know, yeah. And it's amazing. The actors don't. These guys did such an amazing job of you know, we were in there for a long time too. It wasn't just like, you know, one take and we're out of here. It was like we were in there, they were in there for hours and hours and hours.
In winter coats, often.
I mean, I would like to hear what, you know, how you guys did that, because I mean, it's like, it's excruciating.
The hardest part for me was we were in some sketchy building in Brooklyn, kind of old, and I got stuck in the elevator.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And I'm the last person you want to be stuck in an elevator with. But I wasn't really stuck. It went up to, it was only 6 floors. And I was with my buddy Tom, and we were up on the 6th floor. So we go to the 6th floor, and as soon as I get to the 6th, it immediately started coming down. And it was like one of those old rickety elevators. I go, what's this? So we got to the lobby floor. All right, we'll get back out at the lobby. So I push one, boom, boom. Hey, as soon as it went back up, it just went right back up. I go, what's going on here? So the 6th floor, came right down. And so the third time, I'm getting the picture now. This is not going to stop, this elevator. I literally had this in my hand. This is what I carried, my emergency Ativan, right? I was unscrewing the bottle. My buddy, Tom, I gotta take this. Hold on 1 second. And we finally got back to 1, and he flung the door open, and it finally stopped. Yeah. And
What else is in that?
now, just Ativan and
But it looks so suggestive.
a small rosary beads. I tuck it in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't
and,
take those.
And it's a whistle.
Love it when people bring props.
Yes.
Holly, for you, you know, you have such an amazing film career. How would you say, as an actor, is there something that was different? I mean, we talked about the collaborative process, but as an actor, was there something about this film that was unique for you or different for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that everybody was a stand-up comedian was incredible, except
pretty
for when I
funny,
was working
Holly.
with Zoe. And so I felt a real kinship with Zoe because of that. But she's also quick as hell. So that was a very different sensibility. And that was also a really interesting thing about seeing the movie, because there's so many stand-up comics in the movie. It's just a whole different energy, a different approach that was very fun to me, but also intimidating. But yeah, that was definitely the most different of anything.
I'll say when we managed to convince Holly Hunter to do the movie, I was very intimidated to meet you, and we hadn't met. I emailed with you briefly about some stuff, and we were gonna rehearse, and you said, "This is what you said." You said, "I can't rehearse that day. My cat is getting acupuncture." That's what you said. And so I was like, well, that's the thing. I was like, what is up with Holly Hunter? And so when we had the first rehearsal, we were rehearsing, and I was like, so how's your cat doing? And she was like, oh, I was just joking. I was like, okay, we'll be fine.
What kind of protective gear does the acupuncturist use when working on a cat?
Well, there were a lot of questions, because I'm like, is the cat requesting the acupuncture? Has everything been tried and this is the last resort? What are the symptoms?
What's the follow-up?
Yeah.
Well, I think there might be another movie in cat acupuncture. But thank you very much for everyone for joining us today. The cast and creators of The Big Six, debuting tonight at the Echoes Theater. We're going to have another panel tomorrow at noon. We hope to see you then. Until then, I'm Dominic Patton from Deadline Hollywood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.